So for this topic, we are dealing with inequality versus the equal sign that you have learned in Sec 1. So in Sec 1, right, when we have equation, so when you have equation, it will be something like something is equal to something. So when we use the equal sign, that means, right, the left-hand side and the right-hand side are equal in value. So that is the idea of using equal sign. So sometimes I kind of emphasize that during your presentation, you got to use equal sign. So when you use equal signs, there is a idea that something is equivalent. So that is the reason why we actually use the equal sign to emphasize the concept of equivalent. So, but right now in inequality, right, you are not going to have equal. So inequality means it's going to be unequal side. So maybe you will have something like 2 is greater than 1. So the left-hand side is actually bigger value than the right-hand side. Okay, LHS stands for left-hand side, RHS stands for the right-hand side. So there is there's no equivalence right now. So one side is bigger than the other side. Or it can be something like 6 is smaller than 8. So the left side is actually smaller than the right side. So there are something like imbalance already. It's no longer equal. Okay, so there is a difference on the idea here. But the operation will be mostly the same. So this topic is generally quite short because the operations are very similar to the equivalence in equation, except for a special part. So before we go there, so I'm going to introduce a symbol. So after I introduce a symbol, right, I'm going to show you some numerical property, numerical question. So if you have this symbol, right, this symbol represent is less than. So this symbol represent is less than. So if let's say I have x less than 7. So if I put the symbol in this way, that means x is less than 7. Okay, so if for this symbol, it represents the word is more than. So if I use the symbol in this way, that means x is more than 10. Okay, so here comes the new symbol. So if you have less than or equal, so actually this one, right, is a combination of less than and equal. So we combine these two into a single symbol. So that means, right, it represents is less than or equal. Okay, so if I use it in this way, if I use it x less than or 7, if I use it in this way, x is less than or equal to 7. So what's the difference between these two? What's the difference between these two? So in this part, 7 is not included. For this case, 7 is included. So that's the difference between there's an equal sign or there's no equal sign. Okay, so you gotta be very mindful about the equal sign. So those who are not careful, right, you will tend to ignore the equal sign. So you just have to be very meticulous. So greater or equal. So it's a combination of this and an equal sign. So it represents the word is more than or equal. So if I use a symbol like this, it will be X is more than or equal to 10. So the difference between these two, okay, this in the last part where there's an equal sign, 10 is included. So in this part, right, 10 is not included. So the equal sign have a little bit of difference. So generally, these are the symbols and what does it represent. Okay, so what are the function or what are the property? So if I have something like this, x less than y or x greater than y, you are free to add numbers. So you are free to add numbers. You are free to add numbers on both sides. So it behaves like algebra equation. You can add number on both sides. You can subtract numbers on both sides. And the inequality sign will still be the same. So same for the equal part. If you have equal sign, it will be the same idea. So it doesn't change anything. The trick will be when you multiply or divide by a negative number. Okay, so maybe I show you the idea when we multiply or divide by positive number first. So dividing and multiplying by positive number. So okay, so if let's say you multiply by positive, it doesn't change. It doesn't change the sign. So if k is positive, the sign doesn't change. Okay, so if you divide by a positive number, the sign also doesn't change. So you're not going to reverse. Okay, this is the part for you to take note. You need to take note when will the inequality sign be reversed. So what is the meaning of reverse? Reverse means, right, from here, it changed to here. From here, it changed to here. From here, it changed to the opposite direction. So reverse means it changed to the opposite direction. So when will that happen? That will happen when you multiply by a negative number or when you divide by a negative number. So when you multiply or divide by a negative number. So later on in the numerical example, we will see the reverse part. So this is the one that a lot of students will forget. The weaker students, right, will be like, they keep forgetting this. So it will be something like this. So you got x greater than y. So if you multiply by a negative number, the sign will change. There will be a reverse in the direction. So it will change to the opposite sign. So if it's an equal, it will change in this way. It just change the direction. So when you multiply or you divide by a negative number, the sign will be reversed. That's the only thing that you need to take note. Okay, so let me show you the intro, then then I will show you numerical example on this. You do have to bear in mind. So this one is like foundation where you deal with inequality. So we're going to represent the inequalities on number line. So follow very closely. So for example, right, x is less than k. So if it's less than k, that means it's smaller than a number. So usually, right, I will do it this way. So I'll put the number in between. I will write a bigger number. I will write a smaller number. Okay, if it's less than, that means it should be the numbers on the right, on the left. So you take a look. If it's less than or equal, so what's the difference if there's an equal sign? So let me show you the difference between having an equal sign and no equal sign on the graphical part. So if there's an equal sign, that means, right, it will be a black circle, but it's still on the left side. Okay, so if it is greater than a number, so same thing. If it's greater than a number, we will do a k plus 1 and a k minus 1. If it's greater than this, if x is greater than a certain number, we are referring to the number that is on the right side. And if there is an equal sign, we are still referring to the number on the right side, but k is included. So to show that k is included, we will put a black circle. So that's how we do the graphical inequality. Okay, so before we go on to numerical example, okay, you need to understand the instruction first. So last time when you solve equation, something like this, you got to find one x. So that is called the solving. So right now, when you want to solve inequality, so maybe I can give you something like this. You are still doing the same thing. You must also solve until 1x. Okay, so maybe the sign can be reversed. We won't know. But whatever is it, when we are solving for inequality, we are solving for 1x. When we are solving for equation, we are solving for 1x. It will not be 2x, 3x, or whatever. We are solving for a single x or a single algebra. So mostly it behaves like normal algebra, except for the part where you got to reverse the sign. So this is the only critical part. It's actually not very difficult. So you just have to, you cannot forget this part. If you forget this part, then you will always make careless mistake. There's a logic why the sign is reversed. I shall not explain to you the logic. If you would like to know the logic, you let me know. Okay. In case I confuse you even further. So I don't want that. So you just stick to the technique. So when you multiply or divide both sides by a negative number, the sign will be reversed. So maybe it's easier if you see a numerical values on it. So if you look at this one, okay, so if you look at 3x, the first question, 3x is less than or equal to 24. So remember, when you solve the inequality, you're going for 1x. So how are you going to get 1x? You got to divide by 3 on both sides. And when you divide by 3, that is a positive number. So the sign shouldn't change. So this is the solving, and you're going to represent it on a number line. So how am I going to represent on the number line? I will do a 8, 9, 7. So you will like the number line that is lesser than 8. So it's on the left side. So any number on the left side will be smaller or equal to 8. And because there's an equal sign, it should be a black circle. So please use ruler for the number line. Okay, don't be very messy, please. Okay, so remember we are solving for 1x. So in the next question, 6x is greater than -2. So your aim is to get 1x. So you need to divide by 6. So 6 is a positive number. So 6 is a positive number. So you do not need to reverse the sign. You realize that it stays in the same direction. So x is greater than -1/3. So what happens when you got a fraction? How are you going to show? So if there is a fraction, this is what I will do. I will write the surrounding whole number. And this is -1/3. And you want it to be greater than -1/3. Greater means it's on the right side. There's no equal sign, so it should be an empty circle. So you must get used to drawing the number line. Later on, there will be questions where you will need the number line to answer correctly. So if you look at A and B, we are both dividing by a positive number. So there is no change in the sign. We do not change the direction of the sign. But in the next one, okay, this is -5x lesser than equal than 30. So how am I going to get a negative? How am I going to get 1x? I got to divide by -5. So I got to divide both sides by -5. And I can get 1x. I need to reverse the sign. Change the direction. So it will be 30 divided by -5. The answer will be a -6. So we will need to draw a number line. So draw the surrounding numbers. And you will like the number that are greater or equal. So it is on the right side. On the right side of -6 are all the numbers that are greater or equal. So same thing here. -4x greater than -36. Your aim is always to get 1x. So in this situation, you got to divide by a -4. So you will get 1x. So you are dividing by a negative number. So the sign will be reversed. Change the direction. So stay focused. It's not that difficult. So it depends on what number you are dividing. So I'm dividing by a -4. -4 is a negative number. Very obvious. So you got to reverse the sign. So you draw a number line. So make sure you have the surrounding numbers. Okay, make sure you draw the correct number line. Some people, their ordering can be wrong. So apparently this is 8, 9, 10. Okay, on the negative range, right, please be careful. Negative will be like 0, -1, -2, -3. So some people, their number line can be ordered wrongly. So it is the number that's smaller than 9. So it should be the number that's on the left. And that is the empty circle. So please order your number line correctly. Okay, if you forgot how your number line, normal number line should be. So there are people who do that. Even number line, they couldn't get it correct. So when did you first learn your number line? You learn it in Sec 1. So on the right side, it's getting bigger and bigger. So on the left side, it is like this. But yet there are a lot of students. So it's a very simple topic, but some students who are the weaker students, right? They find themselves making a lot of careless mistakes, even though the logic is very simple. So only when you divide by a negative number or you multiply by a negative number, then you reverse the sign. So the graphical representation is the typical number line that you have learned in Set 1. So that will be the basic to get you started on the inequality first.